Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to create this fun, festive winter Christmas card using tons of products from the Holtz collection. Let's go ahead and get started. To create the card base, we'll be using the Distressed Craft Heavystock, and we're going to cut this at 4 3/4 of an inch by 9.5 inches. We'll be creating a square card today. And so we'll score this down the center at 4 3/4 of an inch. So again, this will create a square card that measures 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then we're going to be adding the easel portion of the card by using some Holtz mixed media Heavystock, and we'll cut that at 4.5 inches by 9 inches. Then we're going to score this 2 times. So we're going to score it at 2 1/4 inch and then 4.5 inches. And again, this will create the easel portion of our card. So let's go ahead and fold this in half. And then we'll fold it on that 2 1/4 inch score line. So we're going to fold it towards us. And again, that creates that little easel. And this will go right on the front of our card. We're going to center that, and that'll leave a little border of that craft cardstock all around the edges. I do want to create some layers for this easel, so I've got some pattern paper from the Holtz Christmas collection, and I'm going to select a few for the sections of the card. I thought the red and green stripe would be pretty on this lower section and that plaid up at the top. And then that polka dot one I'm going to set aside for our sentiment. So let's cut these down. I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And again, that'll be for the top panel of our card. And that will leave a little border of that cream color cardstock. So we're going to have some nice layering on this card. Now for these, I'm cutting these at 2 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I did want the pattern or the stripe to go vertically, so I am taking that into consideration, and I do want these stripes to line up when the card is open. So you can see I'm going to cut these so that they line up perfectly when my card opens up. So I'm just playing around with that a little bit, and I'll go ahead and cut that red one down to size. So now we've got all of the pieces that we need for the easel, and I'm going to start attaching this card together. So let's go ahead and place this cream color cardstock on the front, and I'm just placing glue on this square portion, not on that easel portion. And we'll go ahead and center this on the front of the card, and then we can go ahead and add our layers. So let's add this pretty plaid. Now there are several papers that you could choose from the Holtz Christmas backdrop collections. I will list and link down below for you all the products I'm using today, or something that's close to it. I believe these were from the 2023 collection, but there are also some similar ones in the brand new collection. So again, I'll list and link all of these for you below. And then let's go ahead and add these striped papers to this lower portion. And again, I'll have that pretty border of that cream color cardstock all around the edges. And you can see how my stripes line up really nicely there. Next, we'll go ahead and die cut some pieces for the card. We're going to be using the Holtz Sizzix Thinlits Festive Gatherings. And look at all these beautiful dies that you get in this set. We're just going to grab 3 of these for today. That one there, that little holly with berry leaves, and then this one over here in the corner. So I'm going to grab those 3, and we'll go ahead and die cut these from some Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. So with this cardstock, this is a 100-pound weight cardstock, so it's nice and heavy. I'll go ahead and run each of these dies through 2 times. To do the coloring, I'm starting with ground espresso distress oxide ink, and I've got a small blending brush. This is like a 1/4-inch round blending brush. And I'll go ahead and add that color to the branches on this die. Now you can see that although I've die cut these, I've left them in that cardstock so that they're much easier to color in. Next, I'm going to take the peeled paint and the forest moss, and we're going to add that peeled paint first. And I've got a little bit larger blending brush. We'll just add that color to the entire piece, and then I'm going to come in with a little bit of that forest moss, just sort of down the middle, and then we'll clean off that brush and blend this together. Next, I'll be using Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness. So let's add that Twisted Citron, and I've switched over to that Holly and Berry die set. And let's go ahead and add that lighter color first. And again, I'm kind of mixing the brushes that I'm using depending on how tiny these areas are. So we'll add that light green first, and then we'll come in with that Rustic Wilderness and just kind of add a little bit, just a little shadow on each of these leaves. And again, I'm cleaning off the brush and then blending that out. So you can take any excess ink off your brush to do your blending. And then I'll go ahead and take the Lumberjack Plaid for the little berries. And you can see how much easier it is to color these in while they're still in the cardstock. Otherwise, these little berries you'd have to chase around your craft mat. So this just makes it a lot easier. Next, I'm going to be using ice spruce and pine needles for this last die. And I really love how these two blend together. It gives just such a pretty color to these leaves. And by using the Distress Oxides on this Bristol Smooth cardstock, you can see how easily I can blend these. You get a really pretty blend. It's really easy to go back and then just clean off your brush and just do a little bit more blending. And then I'll take the Lost Shadow for the little white berries. I just want to add a little shadow to them just to give them a little bit more depth. So I'm just adding a tiny bit of that light gray. So now that we have everything colored in, we can go ahead and pop these out. And I'm going to use my Tim Holtz pick tool to help me pop some of these out, any of these smaller areas. So I went ahead and finished doing that, and now we can start gluing these together. So I've got this branch, or this pine branch, and I'm going to place that right down the center, and you'll see how pretty this is. We're going to be adding some more interest to these. We're going to add some mica flakes to this, and it's going to look like snow. Really icy, kind of really wintry looking. And then for the little berries, I'm going to add a dot of that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive on each of these little berries. I'm just popping out the centers of those. And then I'll just use my little jewel picker to pick those up. Just makes it a lot easier to place these down. And this die had a couple extra leaves that you could pop up on those leaves that are already there. So I'm going to use my Sizzix sculpting toolkit, and I'm just going to add some little veins to the centers of these leaves. And then I'll just curl those up a little bit with my fingers, and then we'll glue those down. And I'm just going to add a little bit of glue right down the center of these so that I can pop them up a little bit on the card. And I'll be working to pop those up a little bit more later on, so I'll show you that again. So let's just glue these down, and I wanted to set those aside to dry. And then for this one, you have that same situation where you have these extra leaves that you can pop up. So these are really nice, very dimensional. I'm going to use the ball end of this tool and just sculpt those a little bit. So I'm just really pressing down on those, and that'll pop up the tips of the leaves a little bit for me. So we can go ahead and glue these down. And then I will let these dry again just before I start to really pop up those leaves a little bit more. And then we'll just add those berries just like we did before. So I'm adding a little glue to each of those, and we'll just pop those in place. So once those were done, here you can see I let those dry completely, and now I can go in and sculpt those leaves a little bit more just to really give them some dimension, and this adds a lot to these. And then for that pine branch, I am going to just sculpt that a little bit, going back to that sculpting mat and the ball end of that tool, and I can go ahead and just kind of rub that along the edges of those pine needles and just create a little dimension. Let's go ahead and add some more interest and dimension to these. So I've got the Hero Arts Hero Pearls in white, and then I've got the Hero Arts Lacquer Pen in the Sparkle Clear. So with the clear, I'm going to add a little bit of that to each of these berries, and it is going to dry clear with some dimension and a little bit of sparkle in it. So this is really pretty and adds a lot to these. And then for these little berries, I'm going to use that pearl, the white pearl. And that again will give these some dimension and a little bit of a shimmer to them. I'll set those aside to dry. And the last thing I want to do is grab my Tim Holtz Mica Flakes. I'm going to place some glue on the ends of these little pine needles. And you do want enough glue because this is a fairly chunky type glitter, so you want to make sure you have enough glue to hold this down. And then I'm going to sprinkle those flakes on top. I'll just press down a little bit with my finger just to make sure those are secure. I'll tap away some of those excess ones. And if you have too much excess, you can come in with your tweezer and just kind of clear that a little bit. Just kind of run that along those mica flakes and knock away some of those extra ones. But take a look at this. Look at this beautiful pearl on those berries, that beautiful sparkle on these, and then those gorgeous mica flakes, which make this branch look kind of like icy and wintry. Now with the Sizzix Thinlits Festive Words die set, I'm going to grab that one that says Hello Winter. It's a two-part die set. So we can die cut sort of a base for it, a background for it out of the Metallic Colors Kraft-stock from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to grab that beautiful red. And then we're going to grab that polka dot paper that we looked at earlier. So let's go ahead and run these through. So the background will be that really pretty red. And you might have noticed as I ran that through the die cutting machine with the metallic cardstock, I like to place a piece of scrap paper over top of that just to protect it from getting any marks or any damage from those plates. And then since this sentiment is going to be right on the front of the card, I wanted it to have a little more substance to it. So what I'm going to do is grab some more of that cream colored cardstock, and I'm going to die cut 2 more of these. And we'll layer these up behind that red metallic paper. And that will just, again, give this a little bit more thickness and a little bit more substance. So I'll add some glue to these, and then again, I'm just going to layer these together. And so what I'm going to do is place that Hello Winter where I think it's going to be on the card. And it's going to pop up over that first section of the card a little bit, where that easel is. And so I drew a line right across the back of the sentiment so I know where not to put the extra glue. And then with these extra leaves, I'm just going to add a few behind the sentiment, and I am keeping them below that line, just so that they don't show up over top of this. I'm going to add a couple in the upper left-hand corner and a couple in that lower right-hand corner. And then again, following that line, I want all my adhesive to be below that pencil line. I'll add plenty of glue to this, and then we can attach it to the card. I am checking that pencil line, lining that up, and gluing that in place. So you don't want any glue above that fold on the front of the card. So let's let that dry, and then I'm going to grab a couple of these dies, these die cuts, and I'm going to glue these two together. And then I thought it would be pretty to have a little bit of velvet ribbon. So I've got the warm color velvet trims from Holtz. I'm going to grab that beautiful red. That's going to go nicely with that red metallic paper that we selected. I've got my Holtz titanium shears. I'm just going to cut this at a little bit of an angle, and then I'll just simply tie a knot. Just trying to get the velvet to be on the front of both of these, so I'm twisting that around just a little bit, and then I'll trim away any excess. Now we can go ahead and attach these pieces to the front of the card. I'm going to place these in the upper left-hand corner because they won't interfere with the opening and folding of the card. So I'll keep those up towards the upper left-hand side. I'll place some glue on the back of this, and then that ribbon is going to go right over top. To glue that down, I'm going to use my multi-matte medium glue, and this is a super strong adhesive that will hold metal, fabric, paper, and I'll clamp that down with my reverse tweezers just to let that dry completely. I've got some Doc P.H. Martin's bleed proof white ink. I've added a little bit to my glass media mat, and with a small No. 0 paintbrush, I've added a little bit of water, and I'm going to go ahead and spatter this. I do want to cover that ribbon, and I also want to cover my sentiment. So I'm just going to place a little bit of scrap paper over the top of those two things, and then we'll go ahead and do our spattering. And this really adds a lot. It gives it a really snowy look. So I really love how this spattering is. And this bleed proof white ink, I use it a lot. It stays bright white on your card. It's really pretty. And I'll just move that scrap paper around so I can add a little bit more spattering here and there. And now you can see how pretty that looks. So let's set that aside to dry. I'm going to grab a couple of stickers. And these are from the sticker book from Holtz. And I've got this green with white lettering, and it says "Walking in a Winter Wonderland." And it was a little bit longer than that plaid panel, so I just cut it down with my scissors a little bit. And then I grabbed another sticker from that sticker book, and it says "Merry Christmas." Now for the inside of the card, I cut another piece of that cream colored cardstock to 4.5 by 4.5 inches. We'll glue that right on the inside, and I'll just center that. And then I'll grab another sticker from that sticker book for the inside with the red with white lettering, and that says "May your days be merry and bright." And then with this other little sprig of holly leaves and berries, we'll go ahead and glue that on the inside of the card. So that just finishes off the inside of the card beautifully. So let's take a closer look at the finished card. And if you liked or want to purchase any of the products I've used today, again, if you use those links down below, I do get a small commission, but it is at no additional cost to you, and it does help to support my channel. And if you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.